All right, so if we click on contact, we have this problem. This is not good. We don't want to see this. We want it to be a lot better than this. So how do we do that? Let's take a look at the view. So we've got our view. All the view stuff works fine. We don't have to really worry about it because the form itself is being rendered. Context, all that stuff's being rendered. And if we tested it, probably would work. Well, with the exception on our end, the send mail would not work because our email is not set up correctly. But to change this, or to fix it, that is, we need to go into forms.html. So we open up forms, and this is the file itself. Now, if you remember back when we talked about templates, we want to actually go to extends base.html. So this is extending the base document. So base.html. That document is very important for us. And what we really want to focus on here is block content. And then we'll end that block. And if we go back in here and refresh, it's already starting to look a lot better. That Jumbotron is showing up, but the form is also showing up, and it's now on our actual navigation. And if we click on everything else with our navigation, everything works. It still goes to where it needs to, which is cool. And that's what we want to see. All right, so now that we've got that, there's one more thing that I want to do is update our form. And just like what we did in home, so if we look at home, we had that crispy form tag right here. And crispy form tags is this. Perfect. So we're going to go ahead and load the crispy form tags. So back in forms. So load crispy form tags. And let's delete the extra curly bracket there. And change this to, instead of sp.sp, you use the slash there and use crispy. And we have an error. It says it cannot find this library. So it's probably crispy forms tags. So we refresh, and there it is. So I just made an incorrect loading of that template tag. So that's what happens when you don't load the correct template tag. It'll say it's not a valid tag library, template library, blah, 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 cannot be found, and then it tries all the other ones. And we see here the crispy forms, template tags, crispy form tags. That's what it's trying. It's all those ones that it's trying. But of course, if we look at home.html or even the Django crispy forms documentation, we would see it's crispy form tags. So we refresh, and there it is. So a couple things that I would want to fix, of course, is the block Jumbotron. We don't want that anymore. And we also want to make sure that this is, it just looks a little bit nicer. So I'm going to go ahead and first off do this and do div class equals to row. So I want it to be in a row. Whenever you use columns, you're going to want it to be in a row. And now I'm going to do div class, and I want it to be half of the size. So div class column small and 6 being half of 12, of course. So now it's half. So let's take a look, refresh, looks a lot better. But it's not exactly where we want it to be. I'd rather have it in the middle. So I need to set an offset. And what is the offset that we'd want to do? So if this is 6 as well, we want to do half of that, right? We would want to do half on each side. So that means I do column small, offset 3. And that means it's got 3 here, and it's offsetting 3. It doesn't mean there's actually a call or like an actual div here of 3. It just is offsetting this one 3. That's all it's doing. And then our button is not working because we do not have the class for the button. So btn and then btn, we can say btn default. And now we've got that button class working there fine. And then our block Jumbotron is not actually working the way we want it to. We don't want the block Jumbotron. So let's open up the base. And we see that this class of Jumbotron is actually coming through. So if we get rid of it on the home or in the base.html, it's going to save us a little bit of headache down the line. So instead, I'm going to use block Jumbotron as part of home.html. So I'm actually going to get rid of it being in here, or at least the div class itself. And I'm also going to get rid of the Jumbotron content block because we don't need that. So we're going to get rid of that. We're going to cut this out, go to home.html, and then paste in this Jumbotron up where we had our content before, and tab this in, and then change block Jumbotron content to just being Jumbotron. So now if we refresh in our contact, we want to make sure our base.html is saved. And it is. There we go. So now that contact form looks a little bit better. Our home page will still look the same. Our about page will not exist still, but there we go. So that's a lot better as far as actually showing this up, because you might want the Jumbotron everywhere. Why we showed you how we did before was merely to show you what you could do, not what you should do necessarily. I'm gonna get rid of this little comment here too. It's not necessary. Cool. So now our base document is also looking a lot better. All right, so now the next thing we would want to do is actually add a title to this contact page. So in forms, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a new row. So div class equals to row. And I'm going to make a div class. So div class equals to column small 12. So I'm going to have it go all the way across. I'm going to add h1. And then I'm going to add a title tag here. Or excuse me, a title context variable. Okay, so we've got an h1. This is cool. I just moved everything down a little bit, right? But I don't have a title tag. So something also that's cool about templates is we can use variables and conditionals. So variables with conditionals. So if title, again, same syntax as the blocks. We can say if and end if. So now if the title's there, it's going to show up. This whole block will show up. If it's not there, nothing's going to show up. So it goes back up to the top. So to make it there, we go back into our views, into contact, and we'll just add a title, and we'll say contact us. And then in our context down here, we will add the title template tag, and then template context variable. And we refresh in here, and now it says contact us. Cool. So that's looking good. Well, it's not in the middle though. So let's go back into our forms.html, and in here, title, we want to have the title in the center, or at least close to whatever this looks like, right? So there's a couple of ways on how we could do this. We could add a class to this title tag. If you remember back to the class, we did text align center, dash is in between, and that will align it right into the center. That's cool. That might work. That might fit for what we're doing. Or we could add this same offset, right? So we could do the exact same offset because the bottom has that offset. And one might say, okay, well, we're kind of adding a lot of extra content. Wait, oops, we made a little bit of a mistake here. So let's see, we have too many divs, closing divs. There we go. Refresh, and cool. So now it's still in the center, and it's being offset. So if we got rid of that center, it would not be offset, or it'd be offset, but it wouldn't be in the center. So it's kind of up to you on how you want to actually pull that up. But this right here actually looks a lot like this. So another thing that we could actually do is get rid of all this, because we don't need to repeat ourselves if we don't need to repeat ourselves, right? And we could add it right above the form. And H1s already have some spacing below them, so that's more or less the same. And that if tag will always work. So in our view, if we actually did not bring that context variable in, so I commented it out, refresh, it will pull it right back up. So that's something to think about. And we could also be very smart about this as well, is we could say that we could add a variable in here and say text align center, all underscores here, not dashes, and we could say true. Okay, so text align center being true, or title, excuse me, title align center, not text align center, but title. We can add this context variable and title align center, and go back into our forms. Inside of our class here, inside of the actual quotes of the class, we could say if title align center, then we add the class of text align center. And then we go end if, and just add that spacing there. We refresh, there it's showing center still. If we change it to false, let's see here. Let's make sure that everything's saved correctly. If title align center, we've got our views, title align center, false, there we go. And then it pulls right back over. So that's exactly how it should be. So true, might take a second, and there it goes. Cool. All right, so that is cleaning up the contact page a little bit more. and then all the styling of how our site's working so far. If you have any questions on this, let me know. Otherwise, let's keep going.